Hello, hello, hello. This is the Harper and Light. Mary, give a conservative take about the world around me. So, introductions here. Without further ado, do. All right, so feedback is greatly important as far as the aspects of show development. And I appreciate all you listeners out there. So the least I can do is hear your feedback and listen to your feedback. So feel free, that open arm of communication, reach out to me, either through email, Substack, X, and of course, fill up those comments on YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. And I'm also going to, as I did on my episode about the second part of Sacagawea, as far as the night at the museum, that aspect of it, linking my comedic shorts. I'm going to link my comedic shorts. I'm just going to do that from now on YouTube. So now what I do is do some comedic shorts. And I'd like to know feedback about that too. So here are a few of the podcasts that I'm on. I'm on Deezer. I'm on Spreaker, of course. I'm on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Amazon Music, just to name a few. All right, so this episode launches the month of December. And so what I'm going to do is go and talk about my thoughts on the color palette of this holiday and give some perspective from as far as going in depth about an article about the psychology of color, and then give my personal feedback about it, about, my aspect about design, how I feel about designing, and my aspect about logo and brand power with design, and how all that circles back to the holiday season that is of Christmas. And of course, I'm going to give some highlights about advertising as far as Coca-Cola, different brands like that, how they use the narrative side and also with the aspect of color into presenting their products. Okay, so it'll be a catch-all about my aspect of starting out with the month of December, about the holiday as far as the aspect from the visual point of view from the colors, and the commercial point of view as far as advertising. Here we go. Do 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 do, boo biddy boo bidoo, do biddy bum biddy dee, dee 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 doo dee doo, do biddy doo dee dee, na 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 na. Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo, a-doo-doo-doo, a-doo-doo-doo, a-da-doo-doo, yeah. Okay, so my perspective about design and everything. So, growing up, commercials were really captivative. And so what do I mean by this? So I've said this numerous times, making a point that I am a 90s kid. So in the 90s, there were a lot of experimental, a lot of innovative ways to get consumers into the stores or the shopping power. And so from that, the advent of storytelling came about more and more prevalent. And so, basis upon that, people started to think about the aspect of shopping and commercials. Now, this is from my point of view, and this is from different articles that I've read and things, and everything, that when your brand has a story behind it, is with the products and so forth, that gets people to, excuse me, to want to pay attention. And so for me, color really captivates my attention. And so that goes along the lines for a lot of people as far as the aspects of color. And so when I became more and more interested in the aspect of visual design and in visual communications and more along the aspects of graphic design, and studying these interesting things came about to me. So this is what I mean. So it's quite interesting, the commercial aspect, advertising aspect of color and symbolism. And even going to the aspect of where those things originate from. And then, I'll say, for instance, starting out with fairy tales, going into the dark forest, that's something you avoid. Or the princesses, or the prince, the light of hope, things like that, the symbolisms. And being jovial, the aspect of how Santa is presented with reds and whites and things like that. And so when you get into the aspect of the color, me getting the aspect of color, precisely what really is masterful to me is when someone pays attention to detail. And that shapes the way your brand looks. And so, for instance, before I'm, doing professionally, and then, I'm looking to expand that out into crafting other things as I go on this journey with my podcast. But professionally, as far as creating something, creating an image, visually creating an image, getting feedback from people is really, really important. And that helped build and shape the way I look at things and the way I lay out things. For instance, something as simple as learning about this aspect and then utilizing that in the real world and see what people think. As far as if you have things all over the place on an image and the eye doesn't know where to go, people won't pay attention. It will distract people. It'll turn off people. And so when you get into the aspect of color, as far as greens and reds and whites, those can mean different things to different people. In the aspects of green is typically associated with nature. White is typically associated with something else, as far as it's quite different with white depending on what country you are from. So, for instance, in Asian culture, the Asian continent, most of the times white is a sign of death, but death has a whole different meaning than it does here in America. So it's more of a spiritual journey of crossing over something that's not mournful. And then the aspects of red is different too. So, for instance, when you get in the aspects of the food industry, reds, yellows, particularly red, is used on a lot of things. So, why is that? That's in the aspect of excitement, the aspect of getting that innate. And I'll go in more, and I'll talk about this later on. So, we have to innate something with that aspect of urgency. And so, if you notice, anywhere from McDonald's to Quiznos and so forth, Subway uses greens and yellows, but they use that more greens and then yellow to say emphasize the the importance of their food is fresh, things like that. And so green, it has a whole different symbolic meaning when it comes to food, things of that nature. And then versus from the holiday season of how reds, greens, golds, whites are seen. And then when you get in the aspects of reds, greens, things of that nature, what are the origins of where that come from? And so I'm going to touch on that a bit too. So I had addressed this in my Substack article on Saturday, and I encourage y'all to read it and give me comments about it. And so I think that's very important in the aspect of understanding how things came to be. How do we see things? What did that come from? How do we see things? How did that shape our judgment or our thought process about something visual? And how does that change throughout time? And it's quite interesting to see the origin of something and how that, either good or bad, how that impacts somebody's thought process about particular items or colors or so on and so forth, So with that being said, I'm going to get into So first I'm going to talk about the origins of everything, and then I'm going to break down about the colors process, and then I'm going to, of course, all through that give my thoughts and so forth. And I also like to know what you all think. So feel free to reach out to me. Email is number one impact to give quick feedback. And of course, social followings as far as Substack is a great place. I think Substack is really nice because it's unique to where you can also write, but you also can communicate with people who follow you, who like your content. And then, you can give well-rounded discussions if you like to. X is good. Good for Elon Musk with shaping and changing the way that Twitter, but now X is, as far as having different voices heard instead of, being in an echo chamber. Good on him. And then, of course, YouTube. Fill up those comments and give me feedback. Is greatly important. Whatever it is, I appreciate it. It's greatly important. All right, with that said, here we go. Of course, the sources will be provided for you in this episode. So, this comes from Reader's Digest. It's entitled, "Why Are the Christmas Colors Red and Green?" So this was written September 20th of this year of 2024 by Charlotte Hilton Anderson. So it says, why do we have Christmas colors? Let me see. Hold on just a minute. Once you put these on, baby. Okay?
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Not really sorry. Taking care of my babies. All right, so it says, why do we have Christmas colors? Many holidays have signature colors. One reason is that people find meaning in certain colors. In fact, colors alone can invoke particular feelings or memories. For instance, just seeing a red and green poinsettia may bring back vivid memories of Christmas Eve at your grandmother's home and all the happy feelings you experienced there. There may also be an economic reason. Signature colors help with marketing and branding products related to a holiday. You may have already owned a door wreath, but buying a new one decorated with red and green will show your Christmas spirit, especially according to the company that makes the holiday wreath. Why are red and green Christmas? Why do we have red and green as Christmas colors? The classic color combination goes back to an artist in the 1920s. Even further than that, Victorian Christmas cards in the 1800s. Or is it from painted medieval church panels? The truth is, Christmas colors stem from all of this. And the history goes back even further, according to Bucklow, who has done extensive research on this topic. We associate Christmas with red and green because that is the way we've always done it, he explains. But one can trace the roots to this color coding back through the centuries, to a time when the colors themselves had symbolic meaning, possibly as a way of accenting a significant division or a boundary. Centuries ago, ancient Celtic peoples revered red and green colored by holy plants for being evergreen. And they believed holly was meant to keep the earth beautiful during the dead of winter. And it's interesting with the aspect, now this can be controversial, but I'm just, in the aspect of celebrating the birth of Jesus. So, for the aspect of pagan ritual, particularly, that's why I'm bringing it up with the Celtic. So, to celebrate the gods and to celebrate the harvest and the end of fall and winter being near, they will celebrate on the 25th of December and present, if I'm not mistaken, the Nordic cultures, and present an evergreen as a symbolic impact of the light and the hope and going on through the winter, survival of the winter. And so with the real aspect of Jesus' birth, Easter would be around the times of that, April or so. March, April would be the real lineage as far as when he was born. So there's a school of thought about that too. So I'm just putting it out there. It's quite interesting. So, and I'd like to know what you all think about that aspect of that too. So, was meant to keep the earth beautiful during the dead of winter. They used the bright plant as a symbol of protection and prosperity of their midwinter celebrations. At that time, red and green were a common pairing used on religious screens, called rods, in medieval churches. It was likely due to the ability of ink pigments at the time, but it solidified the color combo and association was with Jesus. People during the Victorian era continued those color themes through their Christmas decorations and in their color cards, combining both the winter and religious symbols. So, Coca-Cola popularized the Christmas colors in Americana. And that's so true with the impact of commercial aspects of Coca-Cola. So, Coca-Cola, I would say, and then read what they said, really had that niche impact, sold up the market with being imaginative and not only literal, but literally telling the modern aspects of what people think of Santa Claus, and driving in the lore and the whimsical aspect of the legend of Santa Claus and how that's connected to advertisement and selling power, and looking at the impact of a particular brand and what those feelings are associated when you look at this brand. So, the advertising in the early 1900s featured a grandfatherly man with rosy cheeks, a white beard, and red clothing with green accents. It was so popular that it became the default image of Santa and branded red and green as Christmas colors in marketing. What are all the Christmas colors and what do they mean? Red and green are the classic Christmas colors, but they are not the only hues associated with the holiday, and each one has its own special meaning, says Randaki. This is a researcher that they are quoting from, that they got their insight about, more in depth about color and the color psychology and scheme. It's definitely something to keep in mind when choosing Christmas ornaments and other associated things according to holiday decor. So here we go. Red. This deep hue symbolizes the blood of Jesus Christ, the person whose birth the holiday celebrates. It is also associated with Santa Claus and his distinctive outfit in general. Red is often used to represent love, courage, and romance, other popular holiday themes. Green. And before I go into aspect, I think that the other source that I have is kind of redundant because this really says it all. So I'm just going to have one source as far as this content as of this episode. So I redact what I said earlier. All right, so evergreen plants like holiday and mistletoe are used at Christmas time to represent Christmas life and internal nature. In pagan times, they were a powerful reminder that nature keeps growing. Even through the cold times, green often symbolizes money, good luck, and health throughout the holidays and the new year. Gold. Bright gold is often used as a representation of the sun and the sun as the sun in the sky, and the sun as the human son, where that is the lineage to Christ. So meaning the Son of God, and is used at Christmas time to bring light into the darkness. The beautiful metal was also one of the gifts the wise men brought to the baby Jesus, and is still a popular holiday gift. Gold is used to convey wealth, prosperity, and glamour. White. What is more Christmassy than a blanket of fresh whites? No, I concur with that. At least in the northern hemisphere. Quite true, And in the south, southeast, southwest, and so forth, that can be hard pressed to come by. So, white also harkens back to pagan winter solstice festivals. It represents purity and the triumph of good over evil, two powerful themes at Christmas time. Purple. This rich shade may not be at the top of your Christmas list when you think about color schemes, but it is the main color of Advent, the period before Christmas, when Christmas fast and repent and anticipation of Christ's birth. Purple symbolizes also, which I was going to extend on, the likes of royalty, luxury, and a sense of magic or whimsy. So, is pink a Christmas color? Yes, pink is officially a Christmas color. In fact, it is so popular that many now call it Pinkmas. Pink adds a fresh, playful twist to holiday decor, and it's more than just trendy. It symbolizes love and affection, which makes it perfect for the Christmas season. So, is orange a Christmas color? If you're a fan of this hue, we hate to break it to you. Orange is not considered a traditional Christmas color, but that doesn't mean that you can't add a flair to your holiday decor. So here are the experts that they refer to. Angelo Randaki. He is a horticulturalist at Herbs Alley, and that is a company that sells insecticides and diseases and weed control products. Randaki has more than 30 years of experience working with plants, with his passion leading him to explore the different areas of horticulture, including the history of plants' colors. He also serves as the director of horticulture and the education of Civil Garden of the Civil Garden Center of the Greater Cincinnati, and helped develop his first Master Garden program in the city. So Spike Bucklow, he has a PhD, is a senior research scientist from the University of Cambridge Hamilton Care Institute Fitzwilliams Museum. Bucklow's first degree was in chemistry, but after exploring his interest in art, he began making special efforts for TV and film. Excuse me, let me say that again, I'm sorry. Special effects. Effects, that is. FX. Which is quite interesting with there you can say people who do that for a living, or the FX team, special effects team, they are in the business of magic making with all the effects that you see on the screen there. So the special effects that is included in his resume is Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Bucklow has taught the conservation of painting for 20 years and is the author of numerous critically acclaimed books, including The Alchemy of Paint, The Riddle of the Image of the Anatomy of Riches as Dust. It was quite interesting to round things out to end the aspect of how color and also going back to the aspect of how that's important to pay attention to, that nature tells us a lot of things with the aspect of color in nature and paying attention to the symbols of that. So, for instance, let's say you're camping in the woods or going out in nature and so forth. So it's important to know and pay attention to the aspect of things as far as their color, because if you don't, you could eat something that's poisonous and that's deadly, that can kill you if you don't understand the aspects of what their color represents. And so it's quite interesting how people of his background, as far as Angelo Renticani, being a horticulturist, is very important to pay attention to the details in nature, because that really tells the story behind what that plant life is. And also with the aspect of the PhD, Spike Bucklow, with understanding how chemistry, breaking things down from, having that background when you, from day to day, and sort of, this is our rudimentary point of view about it, my rudimentary point of view about it, breaking things from the molecules, from the small particles, and the aspects of how those small things combine together to create something, the bigger picture of something that is important for the way that we live and move in societies, for the aspects as far as something as simple from toothpaste to something as grand as the aspect of the molecules and the fabric that we wear, things like that. And then bringing that into your love for visual effects and how you see things from a scientific point of view. You really get that precisely right when you have that scientific background, because you see things precisely and you move in a precise way to where it becomes an aspect of a method to test and prove that this is the way to precisely maneuver through things. And that's quite interesting with the aspect of that. All right, so that with that being said, this reaches the end of the Harboring Light. And of course, I'd like to know your feedback and what you all think about this aspect of everything. So feel free to either email me, follow me on Substack, follow me on X, and of course, fill those comments up in YouTube. We greatly appreciate it. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care out there. And on to have on to a new beginning of a new year. And I'm saying this earlier, I'm going to keep saying this throughout the month of December, and grand holidays. All right, here we go. All right, take care.